Senate Bill 3850 was signed into law by Governor Murphy. This permits a Board of Elections to extend the distance within electioneering prohibited from 100 to 200 feet at the discretion of the Board of Elections during early voting and Election Day, as well as drop-box locations. So the reason why I kind of included that report is the board received a request from Piscataway, which is attached, to extend an electioneering limit to 200 feet for polling places, drop-box, and early voting within Piscataway. So those are the remaining. That's the last item that I have for the board.
Okay, any questions? We need to discuss the change to 200 feet, right? Piscataway?
We don't have to unless we want to.
That's at the purview of the commissioners, if you wish to kind of address that now, or later time and place, or not at all.
So, Tom, from a timing standpoint, like, when do they need to know this by?
Yeah.
I mean, I would say if you're addressing just this specific, it would be as soon as possible. Again, we would need to notify the clerk, poll workers. Again, if it was just for Piscataway, it would be training materials. If it was across the county, we would have to adjust training materials. Training starts at the end of the month regarding for poll workers. So again, yeah, I mean, the sooner the better if it's something that you would like to consider for this upcoming election.
This will affect all towns?
I mean, again, the law says it's up to the discretion of the board. The request in front of you, it just addresses Piscataway. So, in terms of the law, it really doesn't say whether it has to be all or none, or again, at the request of the municipality. So it's up to the discretion of the board how you would want to handle that, if you want to handle it.
Has everybody read the letter from
Yeah.
Piscataway?
Yes.
Don?
I'm not inclined
Sure.
to make any change. The Piscataway clerk didn't say a reason why she wanted it, and I'm a little uneasy. I think people should be allowed to campaign, and if you make it 200 feet, there are going to be many polling places where they may have to be around the block, around the corner, so it essentially limits any right to campaign. And I don't think this is a partisan issue, because quite frankly, over the years, I think more Democrats have been pushed back past 100 feet than Republicans, but it makes no difference. I don't think we should do it.
Any further comments?
I mean, I'm a little torn on the subject. I do agree with Commissioner Katz that there are going to be several polling locations around the way that it doesn't work at. I don't think it should be a one-size-fits-all solution. However, I do kind of feel like if the municipal clerk is requesting something no different if they were requesting a change in polling location or a change in a drop-box location, we would at least take it under consideration and discuss it. And most often we would take a vote on it. So if we wanted to do that, I wouldn't be opposed to having that discussion today and deciding one way or the other how we want to at least respond to the correspondence that we got, right? As opposed to, but I wouldn't be in favor of any kind of rule, going forward or outside of the confines of this letter.
I think, were you done?
Yes, sir.
I think considering the law, we certainly should consider it. I'm guided by the fact that it is requested by the clerk, who we expect to kind of have a pulse on what's necessary in the town, and we've certainly taken that position before on other things. I suspect this won't be our last time having to consider this. In fact, but I think it might be worth seeing how this plays out. So for me, since they're asking, and it's not, the entirety of every municipality in the county at this time, I would say I'd be in favor of applying it in this instance.
Could we reach out to the municipal clerks and see how they feel about it?
On the whole, for all the clerks?
The whole town?
Yeah, we could.
Or counties?
Yeah, we could.
Yeah, I think that might be a good idea.
Well, that was
Get a
my,
pulse.
if I may, I'm
Commissioner
sorry, I
Ross?
apologize, that was going to be my question,
Yeah,
that every clerk automatically received
different,
this change? So the option was there at the same time for all the clerks across the county? No?
Commissioner Katz?
Yeah. First of all, I'm just going to repeat, this letter doesn't say why she wants a change. It just says, this says you can do it, please do it, or we'd like to do it. It doesn't say why, whether there was a problem or anything else. There's nothing on it. I don't think the clerks have received anything necessarily. This is a law change giving us the discretion to make the change. So there wasn't anything that went to the clerks to say, do you want to change?
There was a law change, but the clerks got no information?
There's lots of law changes the clerks don't get information on. They're not, nobody sent that, just sent to them.
Commissioner Jallo?
Not to offer a rebuttal just for the sport of it, but I believe we've allowed in many instances the clerk's discretion to play in without much of a rationale or reason, simply because it was asked. In this instance, considering the law, I do see us, having to consider this in the future. They're the only entity that asked for it now, which in my opinion allows us to kind of keep it controlled and monitor it and see how this plays out. Not to sound like it's some sort of experiment or anything, but it doesn't require us to have to, train the county at large, what are we, less than 60 days out of the election. If one entity is asking for it,
Just do one. Try it out.
if they're the only ones asking for it at this time.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
To Commissioner Katz's point, it does say that in the letter, which is not certainly evidentiary in any way, issues we have seen in the past. I don't know, it would be interesting to know if there are any documented incidents. I certainly have anecdotally heard of instances in Piscataway. I don't know about the general election, but let's just say I've heard of instances in Piscataway during election processes where people get a little feisty and perhaps, violate that 100-foot limit. But I would be in favor of, this is asking for, if I'm reading this correctly, for a change for this upcoming November election. It's one town. I would be interested to see how it plays out. I think that post the election, something certainly we could reach out to other clerks about if we think it's something that worked out well. And sort of take it from there as we go forward. But I don't want to start messing with everybody and trying to, cause an uproar inside of 60 days. But if this particular town wants to try it, I wouldn't be opposed to a motion.
And then just one more thing, I would be curious what our rationale, as you said, it's discretionary, what our rationale would be to say no. Just as much as our to toe the line, since there is a change in the law. I would probably be, as I think was insinuated, a bit suspicious maybe if it was in the primary, but as opposed to the general, but I would make that motion, Chairman, to make a motion to accept.
Motion.
Yep.
I'll second that.
Second. Roll call.
No, we have discussion now,
Oh, right.
after we did that. I have discussion. There is plenty of a rationale not to do it. It's the question of democracy. if you want to allow people to campaign, there's a certain zone up to the polling place where you don't allow that, but after that, they can campaign while they wish, or whatever they wish to do. And I don't see any particular reason to change it from 100 feet to 200 feet, because I know in any number of places, I've been to a lot of these places over the years, 200 feet essentially eliminates the possibility of campaigning.
In Piscataway?
I have not been to all the polling places in Piscataway. I've been to most polling places.
Again, I've always felt that 100 feet was an arbitrary number to begin with.
We're all arbitrary.
Exactly, that's my point. 200 is no more arbitrary than 100, depending on the location. I haven't, just like you said, visited all the polling places in Piscataway, but I know of plenty of polling places that I've been to where 200 wouldn't make that much of a difference than 100, other than allowing people to go into the polling place without being potentially accosted by someone. I mean, I see in many instances where 200 feet is just as good as 100. I don't know. Again, it comes down to, for me, it is permitted now by legislation. So I almost wonder, how long or how much discretion would be arbitrary if we said no to people going forward.
Commissioner Schneider, did you want to speak?
Yeah, I would just say, I mean, if we don't know of a specific location in Piscataway that it's going to be a problem, I think I would be willing to take the word of the clerk, at least for one election. It's certainly within our discretion to grant or not grant this going forward. So I don't think we're risking much to allow for this to take place in this election.
One more thing. I would say, we're at that point, if we do it in one town and not the other towns, we're risking confusion in terms of whether it's 100 feet here or 200 feet there, et cetera. So when we vote, I'm going to be voting against the change.
Any further
Well,
comment?
I just have a question for those of you who are more familiar with this new law. Does that mean that they have to request the 200 feet space, or any polling area can now be, campaigning can be included past that 200?
I haven't
Yeah, explain the law.
I haven't memorized the law, but as far as I know, it just says it gives the Board of Elections the discretion to change the distance from 100 feet to 200.
Interesting, okay.
I don't think it outlines a process or procedure.
Right.
So I assume that this procedure is just as good as any an entity has, unless.
I'm asking obviously because now I will vote for the allowance of the 200, so that would be Piscataway, but then if I'm walking around election day, no other town that I might visit will be allowed that, is what you're telling me.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. Unless, of course, between now and then they request the same.
Well,
No?
well, yes, but I would just say, that would be with our approval, and understand the next time we meet is October 9th, which is inside of 30 days in the election. We probably be a little bit more hesitant to change anything at that point, which is why I think to the administrator's perspective, we should probably make a decision on this today, as we're, any closer to the election than this is probably a little too close to make that change from a training perspective and everything else.
I have a question.
Commissioner?
If we change it today, what happens next year, the next election? They grandfathered in it, or do we have the option of changing it if we find it's?
I guess it depends on how
I'm
you.
going to ask a question about the motion. Is the motion to change it for this election only, and then just?
Since I'm in motion, I would say temporary, because I'd like to see what occurs. If it doesn't work, I'd like to reserve the right to say, look, we got called too many times, we had too many problems, there was,
Just for Piscataway?
yes.
Yes.
Because they're the only ones who are
I
at it.
think it's a good guinea pig, let's start with that. It's a big town.
And Commissioner Jolly, I would also say that I believe the statute, regardless of what decision you made today, the statute puts the authority in this board. So we could always change our minds later on. This board could always make a new decision at any point in time. And any new makeup of this board can make a new decision.
Can I ask for clarification, because again, in the letter, it talked about drop boxes, polling locations.
Yeah.
Is it polling locations, drop boxes, is early voting part of that? Because Piscataway has an early voting site, or is it just polling locations, drop, so at least I know how to advise staff how to
That
deal with.
that wasn't clear in the law, obviously.
Again,
Our discretion.
it is your discretion.
How many ballot drop
Or
boxes
she
are there?
requested the drop boxes.
Two,
It's only two.
at the library and at the municipal building.
Are they both polling locations as well?
The municipal building is not the library.
The library's an early voting site.
No, they're two, not where the drop box is. The drop box is at
It's another
Westergaard.
library.
Yeah, it's a different library.
They are?
Westergaard, the library? It is,
Westergaard.
yeah.
Yes, my motion is to basically temporarily, not permanently, provide it to 200 feet based on her request for all that was requested by the clerk. Just for Piscataway.
Second?
I'll second
There
it.
wasn't a second for,
Oh,
yes,
Commissioner Lopez.
yes.
Are you going to open it to the public on this?
Later, after you.
After you decide?
Yeah.
So that's ridiculous.
Is the,
I'd like to be heard on this.
That's the board's job.
motion?
Just advise Piscataway.
I defer.
Yeah, I'd like to speak on this.
Adam,
But
It's up
it's
to you,
our
Chair.
decision, isn't it?
Okay, Commissioners, we have public comment?
It's your discretion.
It's our discretion. We do.
It's our discretion to allow this,
Okay.
Chair's discretion.
the chair's discretion.
Thank you, Chair. Charlie Cradaville, Brunswick. Is this on the agenda?
No,
No.
Okay, so you have an item that was added to the agenda the last minute. And
Not the last minute.
can I ask, did the board solicit any feedback from either of the major political parties on this? Did you get buy-in from Dems or Republicans, or is this just a single letter from a single municipal official?
Something I don't know.
Certainly, if you were changing a polling place, you would have at least asked both parties, why not have that same practice for this?
Because it's on each, you can say no.
What, I haven't heard a good reason why you wouldn't at least ask both parties.
If you don't mind, Chair, I'm sorry, so, just so we're clear, you certainly have the ability to speak on the issue. We are not obligated to answer questions about whatever it is you want to know, so please.
Yeah, just asking for the logic, the rationale behind your decision, because the law gives you the power, not clerks or anybody else. And I'm concerned to see how much of a rush you're in, right? This wasn't even advertised on your agenda. So people in Piscataway might not even know you're trying to do this. And, you know, one person has asked for it, the municipal clerk. Why does the clerk's opinion matter? What do they have to do with the outside of the polling place and electioneering?
Well, Charlie, I can't speak for every town, but I can speak for my town. The clerk handles these type of problems. And yes,
Okay.
she'll go out with her measuring and measure
Oh, wow.
whether it's 100 feet or whatever. or-
We usually have the cops do it in New Brunswick, but Mr. Snyder,
Yes, sir.
he mentioned a brief little passage that said something like, due to prior incidents or something. Don't you think it would be wise to look into that a little bit and ask for a little more information before you make this decision to do this experiment? Or is that good enough? That's a good enough reason to just say, there've been incidents in the past.
Well, it is our decision.
Right, well, the decision hasn't been made yet, and I'm trying to persuade you not to do it, and I think there's some good reasons not to. Do you know who sponsored the bill before it became a law? The Senate version was sponsored by,
I do
I
not.
believe it is,
Do you know?
including the previous report, I think it's
Yeah.
Senator, at least in the Senate, it was Senator Smith, I don't know if it was.
Bob Smith, former mayor of Piscataway. So what really happened here, right? What really happened here is that the Piscataway machine lost some elections, right? For the first time, the Democrats lost in the primary. The machine Democrats lost to the progressive Democrats. And I was out there 100 feet away. And you know, full disclosure, I was persuading people to vote for the progressive candidates, and we were successful. 2 of the 3 council candidates won. And now Bob Smith puts in a bill, it becomes a law, and then the clerk of Piscataway sends you a letter saying, we want to make it so you got to be 200 feet away. And that's what's really going on here. And I don't want people to go along with this and think that they're doing a good thing or respecting the clerk's opinion. What you're doing is suppressing democracy. This would make it harder for people to campaign to the voters who are showing up on election day. Mr. Jallo said something like, this procedure is just as good as any other. No, it's not. Wouldn't it be better if you had...
That's not what I said, but I'll address you afterwards. I'll help you clarify what I said.
Please, I hope you will. And I'm just saying, a proper process would involve the political parties, the political leaders, and you'd advertise it on your agenda in case residents care enough to want to come to your meeting. But it wasn't put on an agenda, it's being snuck in and pushed through with a very flimsy basis. And you also said, you know, you're sure that there's places where 200 feet is as good as 100 feet. Can you name one polling place in Piscataway where that's the case?
Not off the top of my head, no. I can't name Piscataway, but I can think of tons of places where I myself have campaigned where 200 feet is just as good.
Okay, well, I would think that this board...
But I will address as soon as you finish.
Please. And I'm about to wrap up. I'll just say that I sincerely hope that this board would never make this kind of a change without actually looking at each polling place and looking at a map and seeing what the changes you're going to do are, instead of wholesale picking an entire town to be a guinea pig, as you say, and experiment on them and see how it works out and just kind of see how many complaints you get about it. That's not an effective way to defend democracy, and we need everybody on this board to vote against it. You need to do more homework before you make these kinds of decisions. This, again, was not even advertised, clearly not researched before right now, and it would be a mistake to make a change for the general election or any election without actually doing the work, doing the research, getting out the maps, and seeing what how those changes will affect campaigning at polling sites. And so I urge you to please vote no to this ridiculous idea.
Can I say, can I say a few words? Okay. So, if memory serves me right, I believe that location, 100 feet is in a parking lot, if I recall.
Which location?
Piscataway. I think there's 100 feet is in a parking lot, and so what happens when I went to go visit it as a challenger, their campaign people are there and they're blocking spaces where voters are supposed to go to park to try to vote. So, I mean, myself, I remember I believe it was there, I will check my notes. I do believe it needs to be asked to the clerk when she says problems. I mean, I'm just giving you my intake. I believe that was the site. And I remember when I stepped out of my car, you know, I remember trying to find a parking space. It was difficult. I had to go around all these people. They had their chairs out, they had benches out, but if it had to be 200 feet, that's the opposite. I don't see how anyone could do it because the way the parking lot was and then there was a street, there isn't enough 200 feet for, you know, anything like to put a campaign sign. But 100 feet was in the parking lot where you drove in, and it was very difficult. They were taking up parking spaces to vote.
Campaigning.
There's many polling
I'm
places
talking
in
the early
Piscataway.
voting, the early voting.
Okay.
The early voting, I'm sorry, the early voting. All right, I can tell you that. Because I don't know where the other ones are, but I believe that was the issue. I mean, it might be. I'm just saying for me, that I just wanted to add that to it. But I do believe it has to be asked by the town clerk. That's it.
It has to be what? I didn't hear the end.
I do believe that maybe the town clerk should elaborate on what she's talking about what issue she had. But in my opinion, when I was there, and I remember that even the Board of Election Workers were coming out and constantly had to keep telling them to go back and they can't come in with the electioneering material, but you couldn't turn down to try to get a parking space. You had to go like this to get a parking space because they were there camped out with tables and water and chairs.
Well, of course, if they're obstructing the parking lot, they could be removed whether they were
I know,
100 feet or
but
200 feet
people
or
were, they
300
were,
feet.
it's true,
But
but they
that
were,
happens.
that's what I'm just trying to say.
If I can,
Michelle.
Yeah.
That's it.
I appreciate all the comments, I really do. Certainly something to think about. I did not see this as anything nefarious. I stand by my comment that we, in the time that I've been on this board, we've been asked by clerks to make changes, and we haven't given them the third degree on why these changes are needed. We've often deferred to them. From someone who's, and I think many of the people in this room have been involved in tons of elections, we know that the clerk is involved heavily in those elections. You know, my brother's a clerk in a municipality, and you know, he tells me all the stories of him being involved in everything that he has to do as a clerk. So when I see, you know, a clerk saying, hey, there's a reason why this needs to be changed, I didn't think it was anything nefarious. I think it's a necessary change. I have seen, just as was pointed out by one of the speakers here, where there are problems with campaigning within the 100 feet. And so a law that gives discretion to the board to consider 200 feet doesn't seem crazy to me, doesn't seem nefarious to me. It seems like a way to make elections perhaps more orderly, to not be in the parking lot. I assume and imagine that there's still more feet you know, that exists in the world, so people can maybe campaign across the street or campaign, you know, within earshot of folks. That's not something that I was thinking, you know, would be, you know, potentially problematic in that way. Also, discretion is an interesting word because it doesn't mean you can do whatever you want, right? Discretion can never be arbitrary, right? You just can't do whatever you want. You have to have some basis not to. If a law says that we can go to 200 feet and we get a request from who I view as at least one of the officials in the town with the standing to ask such a question or ask such a request, I think that that's fair to act upon. In fact, I think it's arbitrary to simply say no. This has been our past practice when we know, right, and let's be honest, when we know that there has been problems with the 100 feet. In fact, I would say that the majority of the issues that we respond to on election day have to do with the interactions that take place within the 100 feet, or people not subscribing to the 100 feet and they're at 88 or they're at 50. And so those are the things that are going through my mind when I say, let's see how this works. Not some nefarious response or rush through or feedback or anything of that kind.
Commissioner Katz?
Yeah, two things. Virtually, I'm not aware of a single request from a municipal clerk that related to anything other than polling locations, suggested change of polling rooms and polling locations, etc. That, as far as I know, that was it. And our practice, which I requested 20 years ago, is that we get the feedback for those things, even, except not room changes, we get the feedback from the both party chairs before we do anything. But that's a different story. And the issue, yes, is there problems with people trying to campaign within 100 feet? Sure, but that's a question of enforcement, not a question of change. If we have it within 200 feet, then we're going to have problems of people trying to campaign within the 200 feet. So that's not, I don't believe that that's germane to the issue.
I'd like to make a comment. Chola Soprani, Middletown. I don't believe the clerk should be disallowed from requesting a change. However, I do believe that I would ask the clerk to articulate, just as a matter of common sense. I feel like there's a lot of discussion, but there's just a basic fact is missing, is the fact, why is she requesting it? I think if she would articulate that, I think it would answer a lot of questions.
Further comment?
I was just going to add on to it. That's what I was trying to say. That being there, it's a very small parking lot. I mean, I'm visualizing it now. It's not, and where they were was, interfering with people trying to come in to vote, and that's what I was trying to say. Now, I don't know that if that's the reason for sure. It would be nice for the town clerk to elaborate on that, but I'm just trying to tell you my experience there, and I felt that small parking lot. That's all I'm trying to say.
Commissioner Katz?
I've been to that early loading site in Piscataway,
Yeah.
and I must say, I've never measured the distance of the parking lot. But if the
Okay.
parking lot is less than, the parking lot itself is less than 200 feet from the entrance to the building, then there is no practical way for anyone to campaign anywhere.
You're right.
Because it's a major road onto the other side, so
But
it
how
would
do they do
eliminate
it?
it.
You're correct. You're correct. That's why I was saying, I was saying both sides.
I know, but
Any further discussion? Okay. Mr. making the motion,
Yes.
can you repeat it?
with all of the supposition words in there.
Temporarily, or just for this election, to comply with the request of the township clerk in Piscataway.
Okay, sounds good.
You're
I'll second
second.
it, sure.
Maria?
Chairman Engel,
No.
Commissioner Jello,
Yes.
Commissioner Katz,
No.
Commissioner Moskowitz,
Yes.
Commissioner Benjavenga,
No.
Commissioner Smith.
Yes.
Motion fails.
Motion what?
The motion fails. A tie vote is a failure.
3-3.
What kind of motion is this one?
It's nothing to
And
do
then,
with that. That's what makes the difference.
Transitioning to my last
You know,
report is,
you never run for anyone.
is just to recognize Sonia Parada in our office. She'll be retiring. Sonia in our office will be retiring in October. She's been with the board for 8 years. And also to recognize 3 people, in particular right here, for people's service to the board. Angel Torres, who's in our main office, has been with the board for 10 years. Seth Levinson has been with the warehouse for 15 years. Both are very integral people in terms of their contributions to the board. And then someone you may know is Chairwoman Engel has been with the board for 25 years.
Oh, my God.
Wow.
That's it.
Commissioner comments? Are we all commenting now?
It's, yep.
Public comment? No public.
Good afternoon, Dennis Wu, East Brunswick. I'm follow up with my last month's report about the UPS store voter. And Tom's nicely and Linda nicely, updated record. But unfortunately, probably I'm using the older one. That's why, it's not get updated. However, I'm here to talk about the voter history about this UPS store. This particular individual, he's been using the U.S. Post Office, the UPS store, and voted since 2008. And he was using machine. He did one time using provisioning and mailed in and machine, etc. So I wonder, and something that inspired me to come here talk about this is because in Maryland somebody was charged by this kind of voter for activity, for the past voting. And I was just wondering what this office is going to do to handle this kind of cases. In the email that I sent to you, Tom, there's 6 people listed from the UPS store, and every one of them has a voting history. And to the change, they are all, the address did not change. They're always using the UPS store, okay? And in there, another tab is talking about the people using the post office. And they are also has a voter history in there. I know this office has much more power in terms of collecting their information, etc. So I really want you to look into it and see what next step can bring the justice to the election inequality. Okay, thank you.
Okay, me. I, Kathy Adams, in South Brunswick. Okay, so, I just wanted to ask, Linda, you said letters went out 10 years for people that haven't voted. What was the scope of this? Were these people that haven't voted in 10 years that were identified as active, inactive, never voted before?
They were active and inactive from
Active?
2015 to
2025.
2025,
primary.
okay. Well,
General,
okay, so active and inactive?
for the general.
Yes, inactive
Okay.
and inactive.
Okay, how about people that have never voted? Those two?
There's some people that are active that have not voted.
Okay,
correct.
okay, active, and so that's all. All right, okay. That's what I wanted to know. All right, so, I see updates to, or something, update the S&S. Was this, what kind of updates are we talking about? Report updates, or just updating it to get ready for the general lecture? Is there anything new? Because I know since 2021, since I've been talking with you guys, there've been tweaks to the ENS, poll book. So is there anything new that is being introduced in the ENS poll books, or reports, or anything like that that's going to be helpful?
Yeah, I kind of, were you at the last meeting? Because I think we went through some of the
I might have
items.
came late, I'm sorry. I was waiting for minutes.
If you want, I can
Okay.
review, because I don't have that, because we
Okay.
went through the last meeting.
What's the software update?
It was a
Okay.
basic software update prior to the general election.
Okay.
There probably is some reports that we can talk about. but
Okay.
I can talk to you separately on that.
Okay, that sounds great. All right. Master poll workers for Perth Amboy and Piscataway. How many master poll workers are they going to get?
I'd have to look, we did a breakdown years ago for each of the towns based off of how many districts and polling
Right.
locations, so again, we don't need, 8 for particular
Right.
towns when 4 will do. So we kind of based it on the number of districts and then just have an equal number of Dems and Republicans for each massive poll worker, so
Who
a
pays-
minimum of 2.
Who pays for those master?
Edison has 5. just to
Okay,
give you
who
an
pays
idea.
for those master
Large
poll
county.
workers? Is it the county? Is it?
The county does.
The county does, okay. Because I just want to say that I know in South Brunswick, I know they have, well, now they have 9, they did have 10, and there are 2 master poll workers. And don't get me wrong, I appreciate these people immensely, but, sometimes it's really hard because they're assigned 5 polling locations and they revolve around the 5. But, even myself, I walk around there, sometimes I don't even run into them, and sometimes it's a situation that needs to be handled, but by the time they can get over there, unless it's a machine malfunction or a book not working, of course, you can fix it whenever you get there, but if there's a problem with a voter or something like that, not so much. So, I don't know, I think there would be a good thing to do an analysis of, or talk to the clerks and the master poll workers, that there should be additional master poll workers. God help us, we know we have a lot of early voting people. I think the master poll workers, with their training and them being able to, take on more of a task of a supervisor role, would be really efficient to make the elections even better than we are. All right. And the last thing I want to say, I just want to say this. It's funny that we're bringing up, town clerks and stuff like that. I didn't say anything last time, but I communicate with my town clerk, so I don't know if people have been communicating with this town clerk with problems and issues or something with that polling location. But I didn't say it, but you asked, and I believe, April, you did, and maybe Scott, you said something. And you said, the town clerk, why did they say anything about, I'm talking about the Kingston location, District 3. I did communicate with her in February. I did give her emails, but it was just originally you were on it, Tom, but then when she replied to me, it was just a back and forth conversation. I do have a relationship with her, and I was surprised also, I want to tell you that, that it didn't change before the primary, because it was the Democratic poll workers and the Republican poll workers that were really upset with that site, and 2 of them are mine, I'm the poll worker, I get the poll workers from my town, and it was so frustrating to see them so upset, and a presidential election and people coming in and they're like, I'm sorry, the book's freezing, I have to start over again. And I did relay this to the town clerk, but it didn't get changed before the primary. I have a feeling I know who pushed it in this room. I think you probably Tom, because I told you guys, and I said you, and I do appreciate it, because this is going to make it better for the town. And I know you don't like you don't like one district for a polling location. We spoke that before. I know you, so I'm okay with it being at the high
Your time is
school.
up.
I just want to say I'm glad that we all can work together
So we're
and
getting
make this
praise
right.
for
I'm happy.
So
So,
if I
Any of
could
us.
just, if I could just respond that I agree with you, the more master poll workers we have, the better.
oh, thank you.
I
Thank
do
you.
too.
Anybody else like to speak? Laura?
Good evening once again, Commissioners. Charlie Prattville. Recognize I already got to speak today, so I'll try to keep it brief. I wanted to say congratulations on the milestone to the chair and also to those who are retiring. Thank you for their service and thank all the staff here. I was curious about this, though, the Teams meeting here. Is this meeting now remote access for the public, or who's watching us?
No, it's for audio.
Just to record?
Yeah, it's an update of that little recorder there that's probably older than some of the new employees here. So it's just basically to update the audio so that, again, it makes it easier to be able to get that out to the public.
Some validity for older items.
Well, I have fond memories of when you got that recorder, and I know it's had to fight for it, but it's a good thing to record the meeting, so I appreciate you doing that. And yeah, I did want to just follow up on the election districts. It's a situation of inequality where some districts are far bigger than others, and I'd like to see this board use your power that you do have statutorily to address that by changing some of the district lines. Not making specific proposals, I'm not saying you need to do it right away, but I haven't seen a real commitment to actually pursue those kind of changes, and I was just going to ask if there's any updates or if you might be open to doing that in the near future.
Commissioner Katz?
With all due respect, at the last meeting, we decided not to do it. And it was the reasons in part were the additional people voting by mail and the additional people early voting, which reduces the number. And we did ask that for our larger polling locations, that we check in the election to see if they have any problems based on the size. And that's what we decided last month. So there's not going to be any change prior to November because we made that decision already.
Okay. Yeah, and one other issue that came up last month while we were having a lengthy discussion about that, I know that Commissioner Moskowitz asked me who I voted for in an election, and I didn't think that was appropriate. You know I'm an open book and I'm happy to talk to you offline, but in your role as a commissioner, I don't think it's appropriate to be asking people how they voted in elections, and would just ask that going forward, if you have those kind of questions for me, just give me a call. But that's all I wanted to say today, and I do thank you for allowing me to speak before the vote. It's always a good idea to hear from the public before you make decisions, and I'm glad I was here today, and I thank those who voted against that change. Have a good night.
I just have one quick question. Linda, could you tell me how many letters were sent out? Approximately.
21,325?
21,000, how much?
I think 325, something like that, a little over 21,000.
20,392.
All right, I was close.
Oh my God, it's an approximate.
Plus or minus.
What's the matter, Linda? You don't have the exact number, come on. Okay. And then this is, I got Valerie and Thomas. The training for the poll workers. I know there's separate training for new poll workers and for, 2-year, you have to do the training of 2 years. What is the difference, and is there a test? Because I remember maybe a year or so ago, we were talking about giving the poll workers a test. So could you just briefly tell me the difference between first year poll worker training?
It's essentially the same. It's just really our ability as trainers to be able to know our audience.
Okay.
And so again, if you've been a poll worker for a number of years, like there's some basic elemental items that we're probably not going to hit. Whereas if you're brand new, we're going to cover everything from A to Z in a little bit more detailed fashion than if someone, you already know the verbiage. We can kind of maybe, not skip steps, but
Right.
kind of, get to the point on some of them.
Okay.
In terms of tests, we never formally adopted
You
the
didn't?
test as a requirement. But I will say that, at the end of each of the training classes, we have a quiz for all the people that are taking
Oh,
the
good.
class to kind of go over some of the key points, to be able to illuminate the more important points. And again, it all refers back to the poll training books that people, again, for any issue that they have, they refer to
Right.
that. I will say that at some point after the election, and again, we're working with the county in terms of developing online training
Oh,
for people that are poll workers, that they need a 2-year
That's so great.
window, so that, again, for those individuals, they can take training online if they have the ability to do so. They can always take the in-person if they wish. We will require people who are new poll workers to still take the in-person training, because they need to be able to handle equipment, but for the 2-year requirement, we're going to work with the county and the state, because the state provides a grant for
That's
beginning that process to be able to do online training.
so, I'm sorry, that's all.
I'm assuming if we do online training, that there will be things to make sure the person does it, they get a code, and perhaps in that instance, there should be a quiz or test to show that they passed it, so that they've actually listened to it.
We can kind of, as we're still at the point where we're vetting the vendors and kind of accepting proposals. We can kind of share a demo of what that would look like, but yes, there are test mechanisms as part of that. Again, it'll be helpful for the poll workers, but also it'll be helpful for us in terms of developing the information to know what poll workers are catching on to in terms of training and what they are missing, because we'll be able to see that in real time. And again, a lot of what you asked, we'll be able to see that in real time in terms of when people complete that, from where they complete that, and we think that would be a good way to move forward with training.
Okay, yeah, I think so too, and I think sometimes it's, in corporate, when you have to take tests, it's like, they don't give you all the material in your test, it's like they give you a section. and
Yes,
then
it's
you
by
create-
section.
yeah. All right, and the only thing I wanted to share with you is something that's causing a little bit of confusion with the poll workers, especially the new ones, because I do have some new young poll workers. I'm trying to recruit young poll workers. When they sign up for like the banking information, it gives them, or a schedule, and it gives them a confirmation that says, you registered, blah, 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 and something to the extent, I mean, I have it on my phone, he sent it to me, and saying, like, he doesn't have a polling assignment might be assigned to them. So I'm like calling these people up and I'm saying, okay, whatever, and I, give them a polling assignment, and I call Telest or whatever like this, but when they sign up for this thing, whether it's the banking or it's the scheduling,
Well, they're two different things, so
I
when
know, I'm
they
trying to
schedule,
remember which one, I'll tell you.
when they
after the meeting.
schedule, or not schedule, when they input their banking information, they receive an email saying, thank you for applying for the
That's
position
it.
of poll
That's the one,
worker.
I'm sorry. Yeah,
You
that's
will
it.
be receiving
Yeah.
a second email shortly with your registration number. That's their badge number that they.
Right, I'm getting these new poll workers saying to me, I thought I had a polling assignment like this. This one is not, it's saying a confirmation one is going to be assigned, but it's kind of like being kind of like leery that he's not getting it right away. So it's.
Within 20 minutes, they get it.
Okay, all
Yeah.
right, I will double check.
If they did it properly, within 20 minutes.
All right, so I'll.
It's very.
I know, I'm just trying to tell you that this is going on and I'm trying to handle this.
I mean, yeah, it's fairly quick.
Yeah.
Panic does set in. The problem with looking for the younger poll workers, which we're lucky in Metuchen, it's nice and close, you can yap and you get a lot of college children, is that they don't last as long as you would like. They don't come for the elections past their term. So
Well, we'll see, we shall see.
maybe they'll be,
There's something.
that's great,
I'm trying, yeah.
absolutely.
Anybody else want to speak?
Yes, this is Dennis again. I received a piece of email to talk about the U.S. Postal Service trying to remove the postmark. And instead, they just want to say something, post office has a possession of the mail. I wonder if this is sufficient for the vote by mail thing. We just received some kind of petition that asks us to, send it to the post office to not doing something like this. So I wonder if this office aware of this kind of changing.
Could you restate that? I'm not.
Okay, the U.S. Postal Service tried to remove the postmark stamp
From
Okay.
from what?
from the receiving mail, right? Usually receiving mail, they have post stamp about the day and time, etc. Right now, they want to remove that and just put a saying, oh, the post office has a possession of the mail, which means they remove the day and time stamp kind of stuff. Okay, so I wonder, is it something that you guys are aware of? Sounds like it's not, so.
I'm not aware, and
Yeah,
we
just
had
trying to,
we had a meeting with the post office it's probably a couple of months ago, that this wasn't raised.
It was not raised at all.
I'm not aware of what you're asking.
Okay,
I'll look into it.
we just received an email saying the post office is trying to do that and, you know, ask us to, you know, send a petition not to, you know, against doing such an activity. So that's it. Thank you.
I think that's the.
Anybody else?
So, yeah, and I apologize for not bringing this up during Commissioner comment portion of the meeting, but I forgot that I was asked a question, I think actually Commissioner Moskowitz and I were both asked a question recently about the poll worker training. There's been a lot of talk about, you know, partisan trainings going on, about being disruptive in the polling locations this year. And the question came up, you know, does the poll worker training include what is and what is not allowed, one for poll workers themselves, but also for challengers? In other words, are the poll workers, and I'm assuming they are, but I'm just asking the question so I have a affirmative answer, are the poll workers trained on what the challengers are and are not allowed to do, and is there, you know, clear sort of training about, you know, what the poll workers are not permitted to do in terms of disrupting the flow of vote?
I mean, for the challengers, yes, there is training, there's a video, and again, it goes over all the challenger portions of whether our challengers challenging, and as well as the challengers' conduct within a polling location. As to the broader question in terms of poll workers within the location, I mean, not specific to like a segment of like what they can do, but over the course of the entire training, it is addressed what their procedures are in terms of what they're supposed to do. You know, we don't address like, you know, and again, I would have to kind of know what the question is a little bit more fully to kind of say what the concern is, but like we do go over at every aspect what the expectation and the process the poll worker is supposed to follow in the polling location. So at the very least, if someone's not doing that, then that's of a concern, and we should be made aware of that as soon as we can.
Okay, so in regards to yours, which I'd like to know the answer. Are poll workers allowed to bring laptops with them?
Allowed to bring laptops?
That's what you mean, like, what are they allowed and not allowed to do? Are they allowed to bring a laptop with them?
We don't have a prohibition against, you know, like iPads or phones or laptops. Some people, you know, can bring them for breaks or for whatnot, for other purposes. So we don't have a prohibition on that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, are they allowed to fall asleep? They're told they're not allowed to fall asleep. They should be told they're not allowed to fall asleep.
Suspended and
Yes.
I don't know if we have done the equivalent of capital punishment for poll folks that have fallen asleep, which we will never hire them again, but we have certainly.
Eliminate.
You address it when it
Address it.
happens.
Yes, we have.
How long they were the blanket in the door?
We have business.
They didn't come back in.
Can I ask one quick question? I can do it from here. I'm sorry, this is it, I swear. Are any of these people on the 10-year list mail-in ballot voters that you're mailing out to? Because I was wondering about the timing of that. Like, you know, you sent out 21,000 letters, and then the mail-in ballots were going out, you know, at the end of September, and
I think if they don't vote for so many elections, aren't they removed from the mail-in ballot? Doesn't the county clerk remove them?
oh, okay.
I think they removed them.
I was just wondering if any of those 21,392 people were mail-in ballot recipients.
I don't believe so.
So these people, the active and inactive of these 10-year letters, they are just people that would vote on machines?
From what I understand, yes.
Okay, all right, just vote on machines, all right.
Board meeting is
Is there a way to get
October
the
9th
list of those
at
names?
5 p.m.
So accept it, Madam Chair, we accept the motion to adjourn.
No, there's another.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Madam Chair, there was.
So just follow up.
I'm sorry.
Wasn't in the audience.
I asked for questions.
Oh, I'm sorry.
We were kind of done with it.
It's been up twice already.
Okay.
Anybody that didn't speak wants to speak?
Sorry.
Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All right.
Second.
Roll call.
Chairman Engel? Commissioner Jones?
Yes.
Commissioner Cox?
Yes.
Commissioner Moskowitz? Commissioner
Yes.
Moskowitz?
Hesitantly, yes.
Commissioner Benjamin? Commissioner Stone?
Yes.
Okay.